right.
Woohoo!
If you want to go over the recap, and if you also would not terribly mind afterwards, just role play amongst yourselves. I'm gonna make sure everything is squared away real quick, and I'll probably be back in like 5 minutes.
All right.
All right.
I'll go ahead and recap. So,
Hmm.
we started last time having rested in the now ransacked and mostly abandoned town of Blightmoor. Um, Afterwards, the party headed out into the swamps following Nomad's sense directing him towards the next orb. After a while of traveling and trudging through difficult swampy terrain, the party was ambushed by a group of blights, which they dispatched with some effort. Um, After the combat continuing on, they found what appeared to be a abandoned and ruined watchtower from the previous war between Venaru and Zerdo, which they solved a small puzzle in order to open the doors of to get inside to take a rest for the evening. After disarming the flamethrower trap above the trap door that was within the ruins, they descended into the dungeon, which laid beneath, which was where Nomad was sensing the orb from, and discovered that this was indeed the place where the zombies that were spread throughout the swamps of excuse me while I open World Handful real quickly to remember the name. Deepmire, yes. The swamps of Deepmire filled with zombies. This is where it was discovered that they were coming from. After some initial investigations, the party discovered a large storage room full of alchemical supplies and lots of bogweed, which is used for healing potions. Continuing on, they found a alchemist's brewing room where they encountered zombie two undead that were different from the zombies, both in appearance, abilities, and temperament, as they attacked immediately. After dispatching the two zombies, the party continued exploring and came across a room with two basilisks. After dispatching them with some difficulty, unfortunately, Tyrrell was petrified by one, but thanks to Trinla's knowledge of basilisks and swift intervention, managed to unpetrify him using the basilisk's natural bile. After the basilisk encounter, the party continued on through the double doors and encountered a room with two individuals arguing. After approaching close enough to see them, one, which appeared to be a green dragonborn, ran off in a direction most likely being west, and the other immediately began to turn to attempt to initiate combat. Trinla dropped a fog cloud, which allowed the party to uh, gain access to a somewhat more obscured advance. After approaching straight up to the individual, Nomad was assaulted by magic, which he blocked with the use of the shield spell, and following a short chase and scuffle, the individual was incapacitated and then ultimately killed. The orb was retrieved. The party is now within the study room where the combat took place, debating on what to do next.
All right.
Did I miss anything?
From what I heard, the last like 5 seconds, um, Tyrrell had gone through and done an investigation check, and you have that list of items that you did find uh, on his body.
Correct. Yes, I do have that now.
Also, Nomad discovered that. Yeah, sorry, my bad. The Nomad also discovered that the direction that the other individual had run off to was an illusory wall, which he discovered and was wondering whether or not they should give chase.
All right. And the current time is 11 o'clock in the morning on the 4th of Seedfall, as you guys are taking the long rest before venturing in.
Yep.
And
It was a real good thing we did, too.
double checking to make sure I sent that to you. And yeah. Okay, yeah, I sent it to you. Did you want me to pin it for you? Andrew?
What?
Did you want me to pin it for you?
The list of stuff?
Yeah.
I can pin it right now. I'm looking at it.
What's up? Are you staying here then? Yeah. Bye. He seems concerned with it.
So, Nomad would, after discovering the illusory wall, would have turned and said, you know, I believe that this is an illusion. There seems to be a passage behind this wall. I believe the other individual we saw earlier escaped here. Should we give chase? And he's kind of directing this question just out loud to the rest of the party.
Not immediately.
I say as Tyrrell's going through his stuff that, looted off the body, I wouldn't see an issue in it.
Please proceed with caution. We got super lucky that apparently, as Elbrick points to the body, this guy is not the most aware, or at least was distracted by the conversation that was happening. You guys kind of charged down the corridor, making all types of noise, and if he hadn't been distracted, we were literally in basically almost a kill corridor, to be honest. So, with caution, please.
Nomad just kind of looks at Elbrick and says, I apologize. I am not very proficient in discreet approaches. And then kind of just looks down at his heavy metal armor.
That is fine, but in this situation, instead of maybe having you at the very forefront, giving away our position when someone is not distracted, perhaps let our stealthier individuals proceed forward, such as Carol, the, as far as I know, hunter, who should be somewhat good at stealth, and Misted, a giant tabaxi in at least leather armor, could be our forward scouts, so that there can be some type of warning, maybe. Because
Nomad
looking at
would
what we've come across, we've even though we got lucky and we killed a necromancer. I assume he's the necromancer. We could have very easily been attacked by a very powerful spellcaster, where we have nowhere to dodge. As I point back down at the corridor, that is like 50 feet of nowhere to dodge.
Nomad would like nod and step aside and like sort of just wait to see who wants to go first.
I look over at Tyrrell and raise an eyebrow.
We'll just kind of, like I said, I'm putting the stuff I got away, and one point out that I could go first, yes, and then uh, kind of find out who goes next after me, and just kind of look to you, Elbrig, or look to the other one.
So, out of character, normally I would suggest probably Misted next. But if in character, since she's not coherent right now, I guess I don't know what we're doing about her not being here exactly.
Uh, once again, I believe Ricky has had her make rolls beforehand for certain things, and apparently has given her blessing for either I or Ricky to make other decisions for her.
Yeah, as far as Misted is concerned, Daniel or Quinn, either one of you two, you can take control in particular circumstances. I do have some predetermined roles that she has done regarding possible outcomes. So just I'll more or less let you know when it would be a time frame or a situation where she hasn't had a predetermined role or a predetermined decision that she has made.
And then
The marching order, is that a decision that she has made predetermined today?
Yes, she would be behind Nomad.
Okay.
All right.
here's another
I
question.
apologize profusely. There was a lot of everything
No, that's fine.
going on.
I know.
So, what is the plan going forward?
So Elbrig pointed out that it may not be the best idea to have Nomad go first in this situation, as we were almost completely destroyed by this necromancer, and Nomad's lack of ability to discreetly approach things is possibly hampering our ability to learn more about a situation before diving headfirst into it.
All right.
And so Tyrell has sort of been suggested to be the one to go first and has accepted this. And so Elbrig is saying that perhaps Misted should follow after, as they are among the two possible stealthiest members of the party.
The other thing here is Trenla would actually speak up and offer to go first, as she has some experience in espionage and whatnot and stealth tactics. So she offers that if Tyrell does not wish to go forward, that she will. And I assume that means you are all attempting to go down this illusory wall and into the corridor to pursue.
Yes.
All right. So it would come up to, or come between Tyrell and Trenla as to whoever wants to go first.
Is it wide enough for them both to go?
Looking through, it appears to only be about 5 feet wide.
It is just about wide enough for people to go single file.
Then this is Elbrig talking. So the plan would be for Tremla to go first, I believe, since you're offering, and say you have stealth practice, and then following behind Tremla, perhaps 15 to maybe 20 feet, would be Tyrell, and then the rest of us. So that in case, as of with earlier, that there are more booby traps, the fewest amount of people may be caught, and there may be people who could help those who are.
All right. So you will have Trenla going first.
Yep, Tyrell's fine with going second, and then kind of just point again to either Elbrig or Mystic taking up after, because you do have, Tyrell will point out that you have your dog that is resistant to magics to an extent, so he's kind of safe.
All right.
Or our big cat, depending on whichever one.
I mean,
Also, while going through, Tyrell would take the one book I got and toss it towards Elbrig.
The spell book?
Yeah, the spell book.
Right. So Elbrig, you can go ahead and add into your inventory that you have the Necromancer's spell book. And one of the predetermined things between the wife and I is she her input into all this is that she feels that whether to pursue with intent to capture or just to try and gather any more kind of information on the individual, that she'd be full glory towards trying to at least like at the least capture this individual, and if not, figure out where they're going and if they're intending to return with like possibly backup or something. So she would
True.
adamantly make her way. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and put her there because you guys said about 15 feet behind.
Nomad will, at the very least, be in the middle of the rear group.
Okay. Go ahead and move yourselves as you deem.
Yeah, can Mr. Just to give some distance between people.
Okay.
Uh,
As you see, as Trinlo walks to
Yes,
this
10
wall,
feet. Social distancing.
indeed. You see as Misted and Trinlo both walk to this wall, they just seem to vanish through it.
Mm-hmm. Nomad
Eh.
would wait like a second or two, then walk up and go through to see. He would be basically waiting for the spacing to be correct.
Okay.
So far we've got Trinla, Misted, Nomad, Elbrig.
Oh no.
Well, I mean, and Tyrrell seconded before. Misted. There
Sorry,
just
I
isn't.
dropped a
There isn't
D12.
enough room in the map.
Oh no, I shat out a D12. And
Why'd you swallow it in the first place?
I'm sorry, it was just so delicious. And open up this so I can view this.
Thought I was one of those, they come in
And
little balls. They're golden.
yeah, that's a dirty 20 for Trinla's stealth check.
Am I also rolling a stealth check?
That is up to you all, as she's the one kind of like leading the way, and you guys are spaced out quite a bit.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll just run it that way then. Let her roll 'em?
Yeah, and
Yeah, the entire point of this is to have a forward scout. We ourselves aren't going to be that spaced out. It's the main point is to have someone ahead of us to be a forward scout.
and that is a natural 20, bringing it to a 24 for her perception. I need to stop rolling for this shit. But
You've done it to yourself.
the conveyed message down the line is that as she rounded the corner and was looking through, and she was being very particular about where she was stepping going forward, Trinla was, the message conveyed as quietly as she could, given, 15 feet apart, is that she actually can still see the one referred to as Hegrax is slowly not like crawling, but is just seemingly walking his way down this corridor and is approaching what looks to be a short flight of stairs heading up and out, and that she can actually see daylight.
Well, as we travel along this way, can I see her as we're down this passageway? I'm assuming the corridor is much longer on the map. Maybe allow.
Yeah, you would you'd be able to see her just kind of like almost on all fours, like almost animalistically. She just seems to be kind of clawing her way forward, but you can see her and looking past, and given her call out, you can clearly see the figure that was there before just walking along. Not at like a rushing pace, but not trying to make any noise.
I seeing as we're at the back, And again, just because there's not enough room, Tyrrell is supposed to be ahead of Misted. Albrecht from the very back will use the minor illusion cantrip to tell Tyrrell to move up next to Quinla, and then again use it because I can use minor illusion to make voice and as a whisper, and then once Tyrrell's next to Quinla, tell Quinla and Tyrrell, who should be right next to each other so they can both hear it. The two will be rushing and engage, and we'll bring up the rear. Apprehend, do not kill.
All right, so you're going to rush forward and attempt to capture him.
Right. Those two persons are the furthest. Rush forward, engage, and try to apprehend, and then we'll come charge again after.
All right. Tyrrell, do you acknowledge this?
Tyrrell acknowledged the rushing forward. He can't promise the no death part. Give me just a sec, because I gotta check something.
Okay.
But in preparation, if I'm rushing forward with her, I will take the wrap off of my hand.
All right. Are you going to be doing a check to see which one you had? Because I believe it was.
Yeah. I think it was 8.
Yeah, I think it was 8. I believe that was the last of that check that we had.
Yeah, I think it was. I'm not
Yes,
100%.
it was 8.
Okay.
So, useful in a sense.
So I will take that and also take out one of the gems that I got off the corpse, just in case, the necromancer,
Okay.
and just start moving forward with Trenla, towards Trenla.
All right. And as you progress forward and Trenla hears this, you see her kind of nod. And then another strange view, or a strange sight comes to view as she kind of motions for you to kind of just like fall, or just kind of like stagger back a little bit, and proceeds to get down on all fours, and that similar cloud that you saw before begins to emanate from her, and you watch as her form shifts into a 15-foot long snake. And very, very quietly, but very quickly begins to make her way up towards this individual called Hegrax. And just before reaching him, you see her kind of stop for a moment and listen to hear where your footsteps are. So, about how far behind her are you?
No, I wouldn't say entirely too far. Far enough that I'm not like directly up on her, but close enough that I'd be able to dash to this guy if I need to. Not like dash in the sense of game mechanic, but close enough that if he tries something, I can reach him pretty quick. So I'd say like 5 feet behind her, maybe
Okay.
somewhere in there.
During
5
this
to 10.
during this transitioning time of movement, he has actually reached outside and is just beyond the threshold leading outside.
Okay.
So you can clearly see him now. He's not obscured in the darkness of the tunnel any further.
Yeah.
And looking past Trinla, it becomes very clear that this individual is a green dragonborn. And as they go to leave, you see him kind of like look around and then kind of look at the tunnel and kind of squint. But does not seem to notice Trinla. But does seem to pick up on the idea that there is someone following. And begins to kind of like slowly back up.
How far is he right now, distance-wise?
At this point, he's probably about, from where you are, probably about 30 feet. From Trinla, about 15. And
All right. If I'm not mistaken, the target doesn't necessarily know that they've been hunters marked.
no,
So I'm gonna
not at
hunters mark him if he
first.
doesn't. Yeah, so I'll hunt mark him real quick.
It is a visible thing on them, but it is the acknowledgement of the spell, like requires an Arcana check or what have you, to understand what it actually is. But he does in fact know what this spell is. And as the mark begins to take effect, it is this strange, like, cold looking visual that it begins to
Mhm.
appear and just kind of condense onto him. Something that paints a better target for you. And as
Yeah.
soon as that begins to form and solidify on him, you see what looks to be chains begin to grow down his arms and past his fingertips. And at that moment, Trinla is going to spring.
Boing.
She can spring up to 20 feet.
Oh God,
Yeah,
poor guy.
she's a 15-foot long snake.
No, that's fair.
And as soon as she does, that is going to be a hit. She will spring forward and latch on to this dragonborn and immediately drop her wild shape and goes into try and, like, hold on to him for a grapple.
All right.
However, the moment she returns to her regular form and has a hold of him,
Mhm.
you see her kind of stop, turn her head, and then she turns to look back at you. As she will... That will hit. And that will hit. Alright. As soon as she turns back to look at you, she begins to say something, but then all the air seems to leave her. As she is hit seemingly just in the ribs, a bolt fires off from somewhere in the distance beyond her and just lodges directly into her ribs. And she takes 30 points of piercing damage.
Jesus. Okay.
Holy crap.
Holy crap.
And the moment that hits, you see her kind of stagger a bit, and then a hammer swing comes from beside the entrance. And this hit is going to be 36 to hit. And she
Jesus.
is going to take 35 points of damage, 12 bludgeoning and 23 radiant damage.
Wow.
And she is also sent 15 feet backwards into the tunnel. She is very much near death. She is very much unconscious. And that was almost double her hit points.
Hmm.
Trinla is unconscious and bleeding profusely. And is now probably about, right about where she had leapt from. So she's
All
about
right.
5 to 10 feet from you.
All right. Is anyone making a move in towards the cave?
I mean, this is where combat starts, right?
It would be.
I was gonna say it's kind of a narrow passageway right there. You two are kind of sort of blocking the way.
Mm-hmm. What do you wanted,
So,
what do
I
you wanted to
mean,
do?
very, very easy. Misted, who can probably leap over the person in front of the Tyrell is not healing. I feel like Misted would very much rush over to try and save Trina.
Yep.
All right, you guys get one round of action to decide what you're doing.
Alright,
As the
so
rest of you
then-
in the back would just now be starting to like rush into the tunnel as soon as that this engaged. So what you guys would see would probably be Trinla leaping forward as a snake, and then being smacked right back down, and it's just unmoving on the ground in her actual regular human form.
So those who are in the back of the tunnel, basically, what can we see out of the enemy? Can we see outside? Are we still only seeing in the tunnel?
Currently, there's a 7-foot tall cat in the way, but looking up and out, you can see what looks to be Hegrax standing there with a rather big grin on his face.
And how far away is he?
From the back of the tunnel where you guys would be at, probably about 50 to 60 feet. Give
Alright,
or
she's
take.
how far from me?
Trenla to you is probably about 5 to 10 feet from you. The Dragonborn is about 20 feet.
Alright. So yeah, I will move up to her then and put a first level cure wounds on her to give her
Alright.
health points.
Alright. Go ahead and roll for how much she gets back.
Yep, give me just a second. This thing is fighting me.
Okay.
Hell yeah, 2 hit points.
2 hit
But she's alive.
points.
I just wanted her alive, so we're good. Also, this is fighting me. Why is this fighting me?
Alright. Misted immediately would get up to her and then spring in front of her and ready the shield. She has, honestly, at this point, she's panicking. She has no idea what to do.
As I can only see that guy in front of us, we're gonna immediately go ahead and hold up our lantern and yell "sliver," and a nice sort of light pink sliver of energy will race out towards the Dragonborn. As I use Mind Sliver, needs to make a one action.
Intelligence.
Yes, an intelligence saving throw. Take 1d6 psychic damage. And subtract 1d4 from the next saving throw.
Is a 14.
My DC is 15, so he fails.
Alright.
We are 5th level, so that's a bit more. He takes 12 psychic damage. And the next saving throw he makes before the end of my next turn, he gets a -1d4 on.
Alright.
And the bonus action we're using is going to be able to use last sorcery point. Wait, actually, I haven't used any sorcery points. Let's look at it with the Bathless. No, I haven't. I haven't used any sorcery points since we've been in here with the Bathless. So I'm going to use 2 of them for Quicken Spell. And the spell I'm going to cast says he needs to make a Wisdom saving throw with a -1d4 is Command, as I say, approach! And if he fails this, then on his turn, his action will be to move to me as much as he can and then end his turn.
So it is a 1d4 minus.
Yeah, -1d4 on his save.
That is a 19 plus 3 minus 2, so 20.
Yeah. He resists my command.
I'm sorry, buddy. Alright. Nomad Pinegrove? Do you two got anything for it?
Does Nomad see this entire exchange happen?
I believe you're part of the group that'll be rushing in afterwards, correct?
Yes.
You would literally see Trina spring out and then come falling, being launched back down the stairs, and is unconscious when she landed. And then
How far from Nomad is the entrance?
to the entrance of the cave, or to the
Yeah,
tunnel.
where the dude is standing.
From the back corner, back here, which is where I'm going to assume Elbrig was at. The entrance to the actual cave itself is probably about 50 feet, 45, 50 feet, and where Hegrax is about 60 feet away. So he's about 5 to 10 feet outside of it.
Nomad would move 30 feet up and then cast darkness on the entrance of the cave.
Okay. All right, Pinegrove, you got anything? There's now darkness obscuring the entirety of that entranceway.
Black and kind of cold.
Hmm. In fact, it looks to have some form of purple lightning seeming to emanate through it.
How many hints do you think we have to drop?
A lot. It's okay, though.
You're gonna have to drop a couple more. I'm so lost.
It'll be fine.
I'm
All
just
be
saying, like
revealed.
I was just saying, like, because I can't really do anything at this point because
Mhm.
I'm not a healer, and whatever's going on back there is around the corner up those stairs, and you guys are blocking my way. So
Oh, Pangrove, this is supposed to be that you can at least see because
Yeah,
you
this is
can get past
it's
us.
theater of the mind for the entrance. What's on the map right now is not necessarily what's going on.
Mhm.
We're rushing into right here basically,
oh, okay,
Yeah.
and
The events happening are about like 60 feet in this direction.
okay,
All right. So you
okay.
look down the corridor, same as everyone else, and you see the same thing. Trinda spring out as a snake, and then be returned to centered back down the stairs in her regular human form, and is just immediately with a bolt sticking out of her side and just crushed down the stairs, and it was unconscious.
I want to say this is a rough approximation of what things are going on. And
Right, and we're basically all the way down here in comparison.
You'd
well,
be like right
no,
there.
yeah,
Yeah,
you'd be
like
right here. Elbrig is about right here. Nomad is about right here, and the three other members of our party are about right there. And this is the giant ball of darkness.
Mhm.
This is not to scale, by the way.
the giant what? You glitched out.
It's a ball of darkness. He
It
cast
is
Oh,
darkness
okay.
at the end of the tunnel.
yeah, you previously saw stairs and sunlight. Nomad moved up and like raised his hand, and this inky black like dot of darkness appeared and then expanded and filled the entire entryway. So now we cannot see them and they cannot see us.
Perfect. As I came across the corner, did I see anything up those stairs before he cast the darkness spell?
Before he cast Darkness Spell, you saw Hegrex, which was the green dragonborn that the Necromancer was having the heated discussion with.
All right. Can I get an auto hunter's mark on him?
He already has a
As
Hunter's
I'm
Mark on him from Tyrol.
oh, okay. Well, the way hunter's mark is, it's only for you. So if
Mm.
I were to, yeah, I have to do it too,
Yeah.
in order for me to actually get that bonus out of technicality. But anyway, as I come around the corner and I see him, I cast that on him just as he's casting that spell. So basically, after I cast the spell, boof, blackness, and I can't see. But I know exactly where he is. Um, should I line up a shot?
Uh,
I think I'm. I was
yeah,
gonna say, because
let me.
technically I can.
Excuse me.
All right.
Give me just one moment to double check something.
Okay.
Um, you would have to make a either a perception check or a survival check to track that, which that is the means of where they are. It is the ability to be able to track and find them better or easier, as
Okay.
it would be firing through the darkness spell. It would still a perception roll would be a straight roll instead of a roll with advantage to kind of find where they are. To fire through it would still be at disadvantage.
You
Okay. So
know,
I have to make a check to see whether or not if I have disadvantage or not.
Yeah, the perception check would be you taking an action to focus on it and try and figure out exactly where he is before your next turn. You'd be able to take an action to take a shot.
All right. You said perception or survival.
Survival would be to like check for tracks and to basically just track them through like wilderness. The perception is just being able to identify where they are.
Right. And we're inside, so it's kind of not wilderness. So survival check at this point wouldn't really be necessary, would it?
No, because the survival check would just be he went in a straight line that way,
Yeah, that
in
would
that
be it.
direction ish.
And we already kind of sort of know that anyway.
And I believe that to search would be, yeah, the search would be an action. So to actually like locate him with your perception check would be an entire action to do so.
Right. But he's already hunter's mark, so I know exactly where he is, though. I would sense where he is because of hunter's mark.
Like I said,
Wouldn't
the hunter's mark is it gives you advantage on perception checks to like locate someone that's hiding. Like say like you're out in the open, like in the woods, and they may have like moved behind a bush or behind a tree. Perception check
Right.
would be it rolls with advantage, so you have an easier time of finding out where they went and perceiving like where they are or where they are going. Through magical pure darkness, it would be it would still be to perceive through pure darkness.
Oh,
So
okay.
the advantage would be a straight roll because through darks it would be a disadvantage. With Hunter's Mark, it is advantage. The two cancel each other out. It'd be a straight perception check, and the perception check alone would be an action to kind of zero in on where he is through the darkness.
Okay.
Meaning you
So I'll
can
just make a
either you can
Yeah,
either
go ahead.
make a perception check to zero in on where he is if you roll high enough to perceive him, and if so, then that would be your turn. Or you can take the action to just try and fire a shot at him, and it'll be rolled with disadvantage. It's one of the two.
I think I'll go ahead and just literally take a shot in the dark with disadvantage.
All right, go ahead.
Otherwise, he gets another action towards us afterwards.
Yeah.
Or Okay, so I'll just go ahead and do that.
All right, go ahead and fire your shot to hit with disadvantage.
Okay, so that's a 14. Disadvantage and advantage. You're doing a -1 to it, right?
Disadvantage is you roll twice and take the lower of the two. Advantage is you roll twice and take the higher of the two.
Oh, okay. All right, so one more time. Wow.
All right, yeah, you ready an arrow, fire straight through, and you could have sworn that where he was standing is where you fired, but it don't seem to hit anything.
Right. Okay.
So Galzik steps up, but he has nothing he can really do. So he would also be moving up towards Trinla as best he could to kind of get next to Missid and form a small wall there. Right.
Right.
That ends all of your guys' rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
All right. Please tell me you have another spare set of underwear. As the darkness spell goes out, and that inky black, just sense of just cold and nothingness is just lingering in the air. Yep. What level was the darkness cast at?
My spells are all 3rd level.
You hear the rattling of chains, and you see that inky black darkness suddenly become engulfed by them, and it seems to just squeeze down and shatter it in little bits of what looks to be blackened fire. He dispelled it. And as
Yeah.
the inky black darkness collapses and shatters, you hear a very heavy sound of metal against stone. As walking just down the stairs to just about the entrance point where you guys are kind of crowding around right now, you see a about 6.5 foot tall figure, humanoid, in full plate armor that looks to be green and silver, but tinged black in certain areas, and spatterings of what looks to be dried blood upon it. And at the head of this entity, you see a horned helm with a shadowed face and a pair of glowing red eyes peering out from beneath the helm, wielding what looks to be a rather heavy-looking warhammer and a very oddly designed shield. And you see it look at you all, and then turn around and walk back up the steps to the entrance, and swings the hammer at the entrance at the top. And you hear the sound of stone crumbling. And in this moment, the tunnel at the very end begins to collapse. And before the stones all begin to fall, you see this small humanoid, roughly about the size of Elbrig, in a tattered-looking robe and cloak, peer its head down the corridor, with very long ears sticking out the sides, and it looks to be a goblin. And you see it give a really crooked, toothy smile and wave. Bye-bye! As the end of the tunnel collapses into rubble and caves in.
Does the cave-in look like it's going to risk collapsing the rest of this structure?
It looks like it might collapse the rest of this tunnel.
Like the whole thing?
At least a good chunk of it, perhaps. You can still feel it rumbling.
Trindle's
No.
still unconscious, isn't she?
She is incapacitated, but is no longer bleeding out, so she is stabilized. She has gained 2 points of health left, or 2 points of health back, and is slowly coming back to consciousness.
Nomad would approach where Tyrell, Misted, and Trinla are and say, "We should leave quickly."
And Galzik there would also agree.
Elbrig
Is
is
going
already
to
getting out of the tunnel.
All right.
Yeah. Nomad would
Nomad or
assist
Galzik.
probably Tyrell in helping helping Trinla to her feet and hurriedly getting the heck out of Dodge.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say my character is technically part giant. I could just walk up, pick her up, put her over my shoulder, and just haul ass out the hallway.
You could.
Just saying. Yeah, my character being a furblog, whenever I do any kind of
Yeah.
checks where it's like
Yeah, you'd be
lifting,
more.
pushing, whatever,
You'd be
I have
capable of doing it. Yeah.
Okay, so I pick her up, put her on my shoulder, and say, "Let's get out of here!" And we haul ass down the hallway.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll go ahead and just move everyone out there. And as you do, it seems to be just column by column, row by row. As you are all fleeing out, the rumbling continues, and you watch as the entire tunnel behind you just collapses.
Is the illusory wall still there?
It appears to be there, but it looks broken and shattered.
Oh, I was hoping that it would just be like spewing out dust and pebbles.
Yeah. It looks a bit weird because there's certain like stones like jutting out from it now. It looks very out of place.
Well, after looking at that for a bit, Nomad would turn and say, "Well, we were not able to pursue them, but at the very least, we did not lose anyone."
And at that, you see Trina kind of fully come to consciousness and just kind of straightens up and just yells, "Run!" And then just kind of looks around.
Nomad would like turn and say, "Are you all right? You were injured rather severely."
And you see her then kind of shaking. And she just looks down. There's still a bolt sticking out of her ribs.
Yeah, nobody pulled that out.
Nope. And it is
Didn't have
bleeding.
enough time.
It was bleeding rather profusely. So, since it was bleeding rather profusely, that is a. She seems to be. She sees the blood and everything and tenses up and shakes a little bit harder, but then kind of manages to calm herself down and pulls the bolt out without looking, refusing to look at it.
Yeah, no, that's not something you want to look at.
Nope.
Not really, no.
Yeah, she has massive hemophobia, so.
Mm-hmm. I feel the same way whenever I get blood drawn. It's like, I don't want to look at this.
Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Elbert's gonna just move over and touch her, and as he does, the lantern glows, and she gets some heat
Mm-hmm.
just to like fully close the wound after he removes the bolt.
Yep.
Just a
And
minor cure wound. So 12 points of healing for her.
nice. And Misty is going to give. Let's see, she says that. Yeah. She's going to
If
use
I
a
see her
second level
casting,
cure.
I try to stop her.
You're going to try and stop Misted, or.
Missed it, yeah.
Okay.
I just if I see her beginning to cast, I say, hold up, Missy. I know we want her to be better, but we just got closed in on one section. They may be circling around to the beginning. We may have need later. So as that she's alive right now, we should save some resources just in case.
You see, Trendler just kind of put her hand up and. I got it. And places a hand on her side. And she regains 25 points of health.
And then I don't care how so much she's a booty healer her goddamn self.
Yeah, that brings her back to full. No, she used a third level cure wounds. As she felt every second of that. So she knows it hurt.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, she literally just got one shot. And
I
with
look
all
up
this
at
going on,
everybody
Misted's
else.
ears are kind of drooped.
I look at everybody else and say, I know this is troubling, but we could probably make all haste towards the other exit. Just to maybe be able to get out before they circle back around. I have no clue where that led out in comparison. We should not dawdle.
And you see Trendler just kind of like look around the room. And predetermined. Misted actually would inquire as to Trendler's thoughts on leaving immediately or searching around, and Trendler said, "If need be, I can tunnel our way out. I can do that. We should, while we're here, we should find whatever we can." Trenla's offering to be able to change into something that can dig you guys out.
Nomad would kind of look at at Misted and the general gloom going on and just say, "Not all is lost. We still obtained what we came here for, and we can investigate to see what we can learn about the group who was working out of this dungeon."
Misted nod.
He'll pipe up at the mention of the group working and just say that's pretty sure it was the branded ram.
The what?
The group that took out the entire planar guild.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and the name you said was
The group that they operate under, the name I only know right now is the Branded Ram. And
Branded Brand.
after that little goblin poked his head through, that would align with what the town said. Someone had come through one day and was counting.
Mm-hmm. That and Trenla would also reaffirm your statements that there had been an incident in Bleakmore that was reported where a small goblin individual or small individual had come into town and was making a rather loud fuss and show of seemingly counting out the number of people that were there before running off into the swamp and disappearing. So, what are y'all doing?
Nomad would start wandering over to this bookshelf, and because looks like he sees that Elbrick has already gone over to the main desk, so
Mhm.
Nomad's going to go ahead and start looking through the books to see if there's anything important or interesting.
basically doing the same thing over here by the desk.
Investigations, I assume.
Investigations, and Elberg, roll with advantage. As you are familiar with this style of organization and note taking.
Still just a 10 for me.
Yep. Alright. So, on a
Sounds
whole,
pretty rad.
uh, so on a whole, Elberg, what you find several old journals that they don't seem to have been written long ago, but just it seems that the actual like journals and paper themselves are on some pretty ragged, tattered paper. Like there's a lot of damp air in this room. But you do see that there is a language on there. What languages do you know?
My languages are Celestial, Common, and Half.
All right. You do not seem to understand what these journals are written to say.
I
Although
mean, otherwise, from time spent with Nomad, I would at least be able to recognize,
you would
not
indeed be able to
understand, but
recognize.
recognize Infernal.
Yep, you would recognize Infernal.
Then I would call Nomad or Tiro, either one.
And Nomad is currently searching through the bookshelf down here, correct?
That's
I
right.
got a
Sorry.
17.
All right.
Timur will walk up to him in the meantime for the book and
All
go
right.
through it.
So really quick on the note of the journals, since Tyrrell's helping you, Tyrrell would read aloud that these seem to be detailing the events of this necromancer named Jagori. It seems to be referencing his efforts to brew up large quantities of an anti-petrification oil to be applied to a petrified target's body, and it would undo the effects of petrification without the need of a greater restoration spell or being eaten by a basilisk. It involves squeezed and boiled bogweed that has been boiled for 2 hours for draining the liquids into another vial that will be used for something else. You take the boiled bogweed, mash it into a paste. Then you retrieve the saliva of a living basilisk, add it to the paste, and to mix it until it becomes runny. And then add in dried wormwood bark, which is lightly charred, and it becomes a very thick, kind of viscous oil. And includes the recipe of amounts and time and everything else to prepare what is now called the oil of depetrification. Nomad, looking around, there's a collection of very odd things on this shelf. There are books, papers, scrolls. There also looks to be bags and sacks and small boxes and whatnot arranged up there. One thing that catches your attention and catches your eye is the remnants of what appears to be large black scales. Some of them are covered in mold, and others are just beginning to decay. They do appear to have been being observed and studied, as there seem to be notes nearby that are kind of illegible. You do also find 6 vials of this oil of depetrification. And that each vial is good for 1 application onto a petrified target, and that the 1 application will be enough to depetrify them. You also find several bags scattered about, full of what looks to be some rather odd and unique looking components and materials, both medicinal and herbal in there. You find what looks to be 25 strips of wormwood bark, 50 flowers of maiden's hair. You find 15 firebell flowers, 10 snake root sap, or 10 vials of snake root sap, what looks to be silk or like spidered spinner, like spinneret type silk. There are 50 rolls of this, and then 5 vials of a strange looking liquid. Aside from that, you do find old papers and notes from regarding Jagori, and translations abound. It explains that Jagori was trading with a group called the Branded Ram. He was trading his oil of depetrification in very large quantities in exchange for rare or difficult to obtain plants and components, as well as living subjects. One note in particular details that he had exchanged 3 basilisk eggs to the Branded Ram in exchange for the dead body of a young black dragon. And aside from that, there doesn't seem anything else of note or of interest. And that is the entirety of what you all find with those investigation checks.
Well, Nomad would kind of, having not consulted with Elbrig on what he's finding yet, like see the vials and be like, I wonder what this is.
Can I take your mind off your situation and help us with this alchemy stuff, please?
You would like Trenla to come over and help. To help do
She's
what
our
exactly?
she's our resident herbalist of alchemist to be able to if she can identify any of these potions or concoctions.
All right.
And I also show her the information on the oil of depetrification.
Mhm.
So she has the knowledge.
All right. Would Nomad also be presenting her with what he found?
Nomad would still be just like browsing the shelves and like sort of picking out any books that look especially interesting.
Okay. But yeah. So, all the things that I laid out to you, by the way, those are things that you can add to your inventory if you would like. But
I
yes.
went ahead and added the oils to my inventory.
Yes, and Trenla looking over notes and whatnot. Actually, let me go ahead and okay, that is that.
Sorry. Problem fixed. What did I miss?
Um, I'm sorry, I'm having to scroll back through my notes real quick. Trenla is also going to do an investigation as well into some of these other notes as she is actually looking for like recipes and whatnot and notes regarding what potions and whatnot he was trying to make. That was that plus that. Oh, okay. Tyrrell, Elbrig, give me a perception check.
Well, I got a 6.
All right, so Elbrig, you don't notice this. Tyrrell, you hear as she's kind of like ruffling around like some of the drawers and messing around, you hear a very distinct clicking sound from one of the drawers. And
Kind of look over to where she is now.
and you notice that the drawer doesn't come out all the way. But she doesn't seem to find anything. She rolled like a, yeah, I think she got a 7 for her investigation.
All right, Tira would pipe up to her then and tell her to pull on it again, but don't stop. Keep pulling it. It doesn't look like it's out all the way.
Okay. And you see her just kind of look a little bit confused, and then she doesn't seem to have the strength to pull it any further. Come on, man. She's got a -1. Like, that's
I
just
shall.
cruel and unusual.
Yeah, I shall give it a try, I guess, and then if not, I'll get someone else.
All right. Go ahead and make a strength check. Actually, you can do athletics or sorry, strength or dexterity. You can either try and like force it open or try and do a little finesse with it.
So either athletics or sleight of hand.
Yeah, sleight of hand. That's what I was looking for. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Quinn.
Okay. $18 for sleight of hand.
All right. So you kind of like feel around underneath as you are trying to move it out, and you realize this drawer goes a bit further back than what is visible on the inside. And working around a little bit, and you find like little notches on the side. And you kind of just finger them out. You do hear a click and a thud, and the drawer slides out a bit easier. And inside, you find a bound leather book.
All right. I would take the book out and put it on top of the desk and kind of look for anything that notions of what it is.
There doesn't seem to be any name on the front of it or on the spine or on the back. It just looks to be bound in leather.
Hmm. All right. Um, Tier will just kind of open and look to the first page or so.
So you obviously can read Infernal.
Yep.
This appears to be his personal journal. This appears to be the personal journal of Jagori. Not research notes, not any kind of recipes, but this looks to be his innermost thoughts. So, do you read it?
Yes.
All right. A lot of it is just the day to day. It appears that he found this place somewhere around 20 years ago. And originally it was just a storage space beneath the trapdoor that he then excavated himself using his magic and eventually built it to what it is today. He remarks about how he was unhappy with the Citadel's treatment of his pursuits of knowledge and necromancy, that he felt he should not be restrained to adhere to the same rules and laws as he states, common folk. And it goes on to explain, his experiments regarding basilisks, his ability, or that he had found, 2 eggs that he then hatched and raised to be his protectors. It also states about how over the course of these 20 years of him being here, he has refined his process of developing these different potions and alchemical processes and recipes and concoctions to great potency. There is a section detailing about how it was about 4 years prior when he was first approached by an individual claiming to be the leader of the branded ram, seeking to purchase from him some of his knowledge. He outright refused, as he believes that the secrets of his knowledge are his and his alone, and instead struck a deal, as this individual had mentioned that they had recently slain a young black dragon, and offered to trade it to them in exchange for eggs from his basilisks. He said it took him a good few years to actually produce these eggs, but after about 2 years of trying, he was able to produce these eggs and completed the trade, and is ecstatic to begin his experiments on the young black dragon's body. He goes on to somehow mentioning a strange visitor who seemed to be of no body and no face, and the voice seemed to come from everywhere, and he has no idea how this individual got here, but that this individual offered him freedom from all rules, all laws, everything that could possibly restrict and restrain him, offered him freedom, but at a price. And as the pages go on, he seems to be going a bit crazy, a bit mad, and begins repeating the same phrase over and over, that I need more time. The last entry that you find reads as, I do not fear the source. I do not fear the cycle of memories that await me after my death. I do not even fear the manner in which I will die. I only fear the idea that I may die and still have more yet to learn, more to achieve, more secrets to unlock. If only I had more time. If only I could be left alone to my studies. If only I could sleep. If only I had more time. I know they want them, my secrets. They're always watching, always searching for a moment of weakness. I can hear them. They never stop speaking, whispering, chattering, laughing. I cannot allow them to take my work. They will not take my work away from me. Not my secrets. They are not theirs, they are mine. If only I had more time. I do not fear death. I fear the longing for unaccomplished work to be completed. Knowing what I do, however, I know I shall take my secrets with me in death. I know what lies beyond the edges of reality. I have seen infinity and beheld the cold terror of the end of all things. I need more time. If only I had more time. And the rest of the pages are blank. Anything else?
Yep. Is it to assume that I was just reading that out loud?
Mhm.
Okay.
If
Then
you would
yep,
like.
that's all. Yeah, I did. That's what I was just asking. I say if I wasn't and I was like reading it in my head, I would have just pretty much summarized everything important. But
If
if I read it out loud, then yeah, we're good.
Okay.
if Tyrrell had been reading it out loud, Nomad might have overheard and come over to listen, and would have been like, after he finished and everybody was being quiet, Nomad would say, "It seems this man was truly unhinged."
Gerald would kind of speak up and say that it wasn't so much unhinged, but it sounds like he met someone that made him unhinged. It's almost like we have our perpetual issue with crowns loving to, come in and be a pain in the ass sometimes.
Nomad kind of hears this and thinks about it for a second, and sort of slowly looks around the room.
Yeah. As you do, you notice Galzik is heading down the corridor.
Nomad's probably going to think, he's going to go get bogweed.
That's exactly what he's doing. He's going to go
Mhm.
back and get bogweed.
Yep. Nomad would like stop for a second and think, and open his senses and try and detect if there are any crowns nearby.
Ha. I knew you were going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So as you open your senses up and you start to reach around and you force the sense of these two orbs that you now possess down and kind of suppress them, you notice something very, very discomforting. Three of the other sensations that you had been detecting across the world seem to have vanished. You now can only really feel 10 of them moving around.
Nomad is going to sort of just be staring off into the distance, and then is going to look at Tyrrell and walk straight up to him and sort of just like put his hand on Tyrrell's shoulder.
Tyrrell was just gonna give you one of those yes. With
You
like a
have
weird look.
never you have never heard Nomad's voice quaver before, but it sure as hell does now. About the crowns.
If you
I
say that,
fear the issue is
take a
being
guess.
exacerbated.
Tyrrell's just kind of assuming that everyone in here is, uh, Tyrrell's just gonna let the comment of, I assume the Black King has struck again.
Hey, who said that?
Breathe.
The Black King?
I believe Tyrrell.
Yeah, Nomad just like looks at Tyrrell and says, "3. 3 more."
We're down to 10 now.
Nomad nods.
That is not good.
No.
Upon mentioning this, Tyrrell is actually going to ask Nomad for the orb that we just got.
Nomad would reach into the pouch on his side and produce it and hand it over to Tyrrell.
Tyrrell's going to try the same trick with the first one. He's going to sit down with it and try to concentrate and see what happens.
All right. And I'm going to tell you in about 5 minutes, as I do need to go prepare some stuff real quick, and I will be back in 5 minutes after this break.
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, waiting on Andrew to come back to life. So, yeah. Pine Grove, what's going on with you? What you doing right now?
Guess I'm just watching everybody do what they're doing, and I was listening to their little details and everything that they just discovered and whatnot.
Okay. Is there any checks or anything you would like to perform?
None that I could think of. Once again, we're in an area where there's nothing but books.
I
My
mean,
character's sworn enemy.
there's also a dead body,
Ooh.
and another dead body.
Yeah, sure. Let me investigate the body, see if there's anything of use on it.
All right. Really quick, give me a medicine check.
Okay. Ooh, nice.
Damn.
Something looks really odd about this guy. You can tell that the dude is obviously pretty fucking old, even for a tiefling. Which you've seen some tieflings in your time. None of them live as long as your kind does. But even so, you've never seen one look this old and weathered. It almost looks like his skin has been pulled tight against his bones. You can almost count the number of ribs that still remain on his body within. And his eyes seem rather sunken in, and despite the now apparent death, they just seem hollow and lifeless. Even his horns look like they've begun to rot already.
Okay, I return. What did I miss?
Pinegrove has made a medicine check on the dead body of the necromancer.
Rolled a 23.
And has discovered that this individual, and as Tyro's also a tiefling, this guy looks old, far older than he should be, and it looks like you can count the number of ribs underneath the skin, and like his skin has been pulled really tight against his bones, and that even his horns have looked like they've begun to decay and rot, and that his eyes are sunken in, and even now that they are completely lifeless, they just seem hollow and empty. And it's really unsettling. This guy looks like he's actually been dead for quite some time. And as for Tyrell, as you hold the orb and kind of focus into it, you don't hear any voices. You're not transported somewhere else at first. Focusing more heavily on it, you get the sense of someone else being near you, but it's only a piece of them. In fact, this one seems to be a bit more pleasant. Oddly, it's strange. And the familiar voice returns to your head. You just can't stay away, can you?
Um, Hero just kind of assumes and asks if it's Nodori.
Well, who else would it be?
I'm just gonna get the sarcastic remark with the amount of voices in my head. I couldn't really be sure.
Something's odd about this. It feels kinder. She sounds
Yeah,
nicer.
he's definitely very perturbed by this.
Wow. Don't you have somewhere you need to be?
What do you mean? I mean, we got an object to acquire, but other than that, not necessarily.
This is the point where it gets a bit strange.
Mm-hmm.
As you almost feel this loving, comforting touch send chills over your body. But no one's touching you. And you hear the voice again. Go, before they find us. And the voice
Before.
fades. And the sensation ends.
Hmm. So, I assume during that I wasn't actually speaking out loud. I was more in a trance, or was I speaking out loud?
You weren't speaking out loud, but as
Mm-hmm.
you come out of this, whatever this a sensation or whatever is, you feel a slight smile on your face and a joyful confidence. It's very odd,
Hmm.
but you just feel warm and fuzzy
Hmm.
and a little bit sad,
Hmm.
but nothing else seems to come to you.
All right. Well, Tyrrell will kind of snap back in with a, feeling a little bit better, and look to Elbrig and say, "Well, do you want to give this one a try?"
What just happened to you? Did it work?
Yeah. I mean, it worked. It's pleasant, if that makes sense. Um, it, as far as I know, it worked. I mean, like I said, for me, it was talking to someone in a place. So I don't know exactly how it will work for you, but it seemed to work.
Is that what happened with the other orb when you try to talk to someone in the place?
Yes, the other one allowed me to talk to someone.
It was a singular sentence, and then you were
Yes.
seemingly snapped back out of it, but that
Yep.
last one
And that's,
felt a bit darker, a bit
hmm.
colder.
All right. So I will just kind of relay that last time around I only got about a sentence out before it kicked me out, and it was more ominous in a sense. Where this one I was able to actually commune with them for a little bit longer, and it's oddly happy.
Okay.
Don't ask me. No.
I guess I might as well give it a try. My interactions with these orbs are not, and well, at least my interaction with the other orb was not like that. So I
Yeah.
guess I might as well.
All right, so
All right.
you hand the orb over to Elbrig.
Yes, I hand the orb over.
All right, this one is comparatively to the black orb. The black orb seemed dense and kind of cold and not like staggeringly heavy, but it felt like it had some weight to it. But it didn't feel physically like it was heavy. This orb, this white orb, is very light. It feels very warm to the touch. And it feels like you can just kind of let it go and then it feels like it'll just float there. But you can physically feel that it has weight to it, that if you let go, it would drop. It is a very odd sensation.
Or science.
Hmm.
Don't actually drop the orb.
Okay. I'm not going to. So yeah, I will go ahead and sit down and try to connect with the orb in the same way I did the other.
All right. Sorry, lubricating the pipes a little bit. So as you all watch Elbrick kind of, sit down and focus on this orb, you see the eyes take on this opalescent sheen, and he just kind of goes a little limp, and just seems to be staring into the orb. Elbrick, what you see, as you sit there with the orb in your hands, you feel yourself pulled away, and now you are holding this orb, walking through the swamp. And everything seems different. You are looking around and notice that you are accompanied by the recognizable form of a tabaxi-like being with 8 tails and glowing pink eyes. And she is walking next to you and seems rather perturbed. And as you are walking, the trees of this swamp are dense, more abundant than what you remember on your way here. And it's just surrounded by the swampland, and you're quietly walking together until you break the silence, and it's the same voice that you are familiar with from your dream. Do you think we did the right thing? And Imtrix turns and looks at you and responds, "No, absolutely not. But what choice do we have now? What is done cannot just be undone." And in return, you reply with, "But you could have done something. You're stronger than any one of us. Probably all of us. You could have stopped them, held them accountable, anything. Why didn't you?" And Emtrix kind of looks down and goes quiet for a short time, and then finally answers, "Do you truly think so highly of my power? Besides, part of me struggles to find any alternative solution. That as well as, well, I also don't know what happens to us after. I mean, I don't know that I could bring myself to destroy any more Ainkur as long as I live. We've slain each other enough, I feel. Now, we must simply do what we have to in order to protect the children. They need our guidance now more than ever, especially your guidance, Kairu." The vision continues as the pair of you walk again in silence and thought, and you reach what looks to be a crumbling, shattered tower deep, deep in the swamp. The two of you enter and hide this white orb inside of what looks to be a stone chest, burying it beneath the collapsed rubble and stone and shattered glass, beneath a great stone gargoyle's head. And then, with that, Kairu looks up to Imtrix, takes a breath, and says, "Veldum Trixodas, it is not me that the children need most. I do not have the strength or the power to protect them from everything. You have the power to protect them even from us. You're their greatest protector, I just, for their sake, and for our own, I hope we can do things right next time. I hope next time we get it right. And the vision fades. But as it does, you look up and you see what looks to be a small halfling, roughly your size, perhaps a little bit taller, with what looks to be a large gourd on their hip, with sparkling dust seeming to be collected around the edge, and depictions of stars and clouds around the outside of this bowl or jar or gourd. And he doesn't say anything, but he too is holding this orb, and just looks at you, and gives a smile, and it's an apologetic smile, before nodding and seeming to then vanish. You look around, and everyone is exactly where they were.
I let out like a dejected sigh. And then relay my vision. I'll keep the last part out though. The whole him looking at me and apologetic smile. That part I keep to myself.
Mm-hmm.
The rest I tell everybody.
You recount everything you saw in the vision.
Everything but him looking at me and giving me a sad smile.
Yeah. All right. So, what are y'all doing?
Nomad would be thinking about, would be pondering Elbrig's report.
I would say Tyrrell would kind of think and ask Nomad if he still senses Intrix.
Nomad would open that sense and see if he can detect that specific wavelength. That specific length, sorry.
It's really hard to discern any of these from each other, but you do feel one that is far more powerful now. It has almost a tangible feeling to you. And you can, at best, assume that it would be her.
Nomad would go quiet for a moment and just have that standing completely still, immersing himself in this sense. Tyrrell would be able to tell by now, that's what he's doing. Then after a moment, he would turn and say, "I believe so. It is difficult to discern one from the other, but the most powerful one is still here."
Oh, Tyrrell would kind of murmur that at least aligns with what the Elbrig was saying. They seem to acknowledge her as the strongest, so.
Why do you guys think they keep saying hope next time we get it right?
Nomad would kind of ponder this and then say, "I believe there are things that the Einkur have done that, well, they would have preferred not to have to do."
Really quick,
That's
Elbrig, give me a religion check.
really. Oh, 23.
Going through these visions, and thinking back on everything, you were able to pick out from the first vision and thinking on everything, every single one of the crowns present, except for the ones whose eyes you were viewing things through, it seemed. And now, this second vision kind of solidifies your belief and understanding of who exactly it was that you are viewing these visions through, including the entity who it was that you saw through their eyes what looked to be their death. And this individual would be Kairu. And you've heard things about him before, but during your time of Delvi Ixnum and glossing over some of the books and whatnot and thinking back to your education and your upbringing, you now understand that Kairu was the crown of hope. That as the crown of hope, Kairu's entire belief system revolved around inspiring others to greatness through their own deeds, by granting them dreams of their aspirations come to fruition, by encouraging them, complimenting them, and doing everything that was within his power to allow them to reach their goals by their own means of just simply through hope and perseverance. You also know that Kairu presided over one particular school of magic that he, despite being perceived as one of the less powerful of the crowns, he had more skill with this particular school of magic than even Kryasuna. And that was the gift of divination. That his capabilities were second to none as far as his skills with the arts of divination and prediction and foresight and understanding things that are of the past, of the present, and are yet to come. And perhaps he knew many things that others will never know until perhaps the day it might ever come to pass.
Just to be clear, as I do this for player knowledge for the player, well, for the vision, it was Intrix saying, "I hope we get it right," or Kyrie, me
Kairu
in that vision.
is the one that was stating that I hope next time we get it right.
And in the first vision, was that Intrix or Kyrie who also said the same thing?
Um, in the dream, it was Kairu looking to Mtrix and repeating the same phrase of next time I hope we'll get it right.
And that's not heavy. Yeah, I should have chose to be different race. I never should have done that. So yeah, with that light bulb moment, whatever it was going to say, he kind of just stops. So it's like, no, but that's, and then just like stops and ponders, and then kind of, to be honest, gets a little scared. Like you can see it in his eyes, gets a little scared. I'm just kind of stay silent.
Um, if you do that, Tiro was going to bring up that it, there could be some possible connection to the vision you had where someone died and they said the person that had killed them had said the lie is over, pretty much.
All right. As you say that, double contradict itself. Uh, I'm pretty sure it's not someone that I'm with this second repeat here. I'm now maybe 60% sure that at least since this happened twice, and it's hard for me to see this as a coincidence. I very sure I'm seeing from Kairu's perspective in these visions or dreams. So
Oh.
the first one was Kairu getting killed by that dark shadowy figure who Elix Tiro you probably think is the Black King, right?
Well, Tiro will just kind of finally give a nod and say, "So you acknowledge the fact, you kind of believe me now that one is, well, more than one now is dead, and that he would look at you and say, it's not a belief that the Black King is in fact back. There is no belief about it now."
Yeah, as much as I hate to admit it, yes. And then yeah, there's most likely that connection.
I'd say I've seen the tomb personally. He, well, from what it looks like, broke out of said sarcophagus essentially.
Yeah, it's not great. And like there's a pause as he thinks about it. I think they're trying. I think they're trying to change maybe fate or a future. Since from my studies, I think Pyru Pyru is known to have a pretty good understanding and even a affinity for divination magic. One of parts of that divination magic is to see the future, or at least to see signs of things that may happen, good or bad. I think the crowns are, or at least if not all the crowns, if just Cairo and Infix at least, are trying to fight against events that he might have seen. And that's why I think they hid the orb, or the orbs have been hid in the first place, to maybe prevent something. And I'm not worried that we've uncovered. I know that we didn't uncover them, but they've been uncovered. That two of these orbs have been uncovered.
I would kind of think about what you're saying and agree that it's possible they're trying to prevent something, but at the same point, I think they also, from what the Black King is saying, I think they're lying about something, especially since there's more than one being on crown level. Well, a couple of them now, and I've had a conversation with one of them, at least. I Tiro's kind of gonna be on edge with the rest and just say, I don't quite know what's going on. Not pretty much no one does. But I'd say it's at least good that Intrix is still hopefully at play. And probably Arknaus. But I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, what would the Black King call a lie?
I couldn't tell you. In fact, actually, there's probably only one person who could tell us if he chose to. Oh, actually, maybe two people who could tell us. And Tyrrell thinking a little bit later, well, maybe three actually.
Albert kind of gives you a perturbed look as the number keeps increasing.
Uh, he Tyrrell would acknowledge this look and just be like, there's a lot of. I just have a rough time with powerful beings that like to invade my personal space. Just it's never good. I think,
Understandable.
but he would just kind of let out that one said person that could probably inform us would be Cadmus. as he was with the Black King till pretty much the end. Possibly, other than that, I could track down the true Arcanian I accidentally pulled out of a realm.
What now?
Hero just kind of stops at that and be like, "Oh yeah." She'll just kind of look at Elbrig and ask, "How familiar are you with stories on the crowns, particularly the 14th?"
Religion check, if you want, or you can use the previous one, if you would prefer.
Previous one.
All right. Since that was a substantially good roll, given what he's been saying and references the idea of a true Arcanian, brings up an old story in mythology that Arknaus himself created the Tiefling race and also created the Azamar race that is present throughout Vanaru and into Jardou. But aside from that, he created a perfect combination of the two, using the humans as a base for it and applying the aspects of both Azamar and Tieflings to them to create what is known as the pure-blooded Arcanians that shared his name, and that these individuals were ferociously powerful, and as such were also greatly feared and vanished into history, as they were many times ostracized as being too dangerous to be kept around. And eventually the bloodline, as it seems, was supposedly died out. But that there are still rumors that some might still actually remain to this day.
So, from the time that this, because probably just flashes through my mind, and Tira asked me the question, I just put my head in my hands and say, seriously. First, Malia, Malia, right?
Mila?
Mila, I'm sorry. Mila, first Mila, and now a true arcane. We're just running into extinct people all over.
Yes and no. I mean, no more for now. True Arcanians are going to be coming out. But I
Wait,
did release probably the oldest of them, I assume.
how? Why? What's your connection?
Um, to be honest, I don't know how. And there was no why, it just kind of happened. And the connection, I'm still not 100% sure on. I have some semblance of an idea, but still no real idea, if that makes sense.
When did this happen? Was this when we were in Delve Ixnum?
Yeah, it happened in Delve Exnum. It's under control. I mean, they didn't want anything. They just kind of left after visiting the king. But
So someone important did get notified.
yeah, they are aware that, and plus this, I guess, essentially deity at this point isn't hostile by any means.
I mean, as far as we
Yeah.
know.
Anyway, there's that one to account for. There is yet another group, yet another one that could possibly know, but I'm not 100% sure. And I mean, other than maybe asking a crown if we can get their attention.
Do me a favor real quick.
Yeah.
Can you all roll a perception check for me?
Oh boy.
I would rather remain stupid and blind. Thank you very much.
Ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is bliss.
Okay.
I want a refund on this app.
How can this shit from happen?
Okay. Carry on. You just noticed that Galzik returned. It was kind of like leaning against the wall.
Fuck you. Just so you know.
Dalzik, is it? Where did you go?
And you see him kind of look around and I went to go get bogweed. That's why I came to Deep Miner.
Nomad would say he did mention he needed a lot of bogweed.
You didn't.
Tyrol,
I haven't.
hold on. At the mention of this, Tyrol is going to like shoot up and freak out for a second and just be like, "Everyone stop!" And then he's just gonna kind of look around and go, "Where's the turtle?"
Mister still has the turtle.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we're good.
Once
Our
again,
emergency reactions are still here.
perturbed by feeling. For discussing heavy ashes and you're like, "Where the fuck?"
Well, the mention of bogweed jogged his memory about the turtle that was eating bogweed. Anyway, our emergency rations are still here. We're fine.
So, I've got this right. We now have 2 of 3 orbs. They were hidden, assumedly, by at least, at the very least, probably Kairu and Interest. From what I can guess, I feel like Kairu, with Intrex's help, is trying to avoid some future event, and it's an event that's happened before. Like they are trying to change something that has already happened because they keep mentioning getting it right this time. So there's that.
Tyrol could pipe
Then
up and
Mhm.
say it could be about the slicks. Maybe it's not the first time these things have come into being.
By the
Maybe.
way, real quick, for the two of you, do with that what you will. Roll whatever you want to roll. Please continue.
Huh?
That directed at us or who?
Are we supposed to roll something? I'm
Well,
confused here.
come on.
It is specifically for the two of us who just rolled insight checks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Seems normal.
Yeah, so back to Albert breaking things down. 2 orbs, they were hidden. An event that's already happened, they're trying to avoid getting one. The Black King is awake and alive and is most likely the culprit killing off crowds. We're stuck in the middle of it with one more orb to find. And
Yes.
then, and while that overhangs us all, like that's the overhanging, big problem. We've now come across this uh, necromancer who apparently had his own descent into some sort of madness,
Which
dealing
could
with
be another powerful entity.
dealing with someone who gave him the ability or the materials to research something that's actually kind of helpful. The ability to not be petrified by basilisks, to unpetrify people who've been petrified by basilisks without the use of magic. It's a natural remedy, so it's not all bad. But he's
Well,
dealt with people who slayed a dragon and a black one at that.
Yeah, that would be the person with probably the big ass hammer that just caved in our area.
And because I'm not entirely sure, who was the green? Does anyone recognize who the green dragonborn was? I'm terrible with faces and names, but that was who?
I don't think anyone would. At least I don't know him. I don't know if anyone
Misted
else would.
speaks
But
up and states the name was Hegrax.
He
oh yes. But Tua continues saying that he doesn't. At least he doesn't know him. Someone could, but more than likely he's either in line with the um group of the Rams.
the
I'm
banded
drawing.
rams.
Yeah, I'm drawing a goddamn blank real quick. Hold on. Allow my brain to reboot. He's either with them or he's someone else. Could, well, it's possible he's the one who drove this tiefling insane.
And he has powerful allies, the walking giant metal man with a hefty hammer, and then some unseen crossbow man or woman.
Well, that's why I think he's with the branded ram. That was more of a group effort. And the fact that that little goblin showed up right at the end, it kind of clarifies they're still here, or were still here.
So I guess when it comes to moving forward, do we've got two of the orbs. They were hidden for a reason. I am not so confident in like saying to pursue and finding the last orb so much as keeping the two we already have safe.
Well, I think caution should be advised with it, but I think it is better for us to retrieve the third orb.
Why?
Nomad
Well,
would Nomad would speak up and say, "It is the mission we were entrusted with, and we agreed to do so."
Tour would continue not only that, but the fact that the Slicks were after the first one. No one really seemed to be after this one except for a man that was interested in finding out a bunch of secrets. But they also seemed to be different in a sense. One felt dark, this one felt happy. Maybe the other one holds something we don't know yet. Also, with the fact that the Slicks wanted the first one, I don't think it's far-fetched to assume that they want the next one.
I just worry about, like you said, they're after the orbs, but if we pursue and get all three, that means all three are in one location.
Yes, and that could be detrimentally bad or good. We don't really know what these things really do yet, or why they were hidden.
Okay, so there's that, and then
All I
we
know is
take.
that the Slicks can be an issue, and the fact that the king is back, and I wouldn't say it's far-fetched to say maybe the king returning and the Slicks coming are one and the same issue.
Mhm. But so here's the question going forward: do we take the time to investigate the banded rams, or do we just do what we did now and have Nomad tell us a direction the last orbit and just go there?
Nomad would speak up and say, "Our mission is to find the orbs. This organization, while concerning, is not a part of it. And judging by our encounter earlier, I don't believe we are strong enough to confront them."
Yet we're strong enough to just run off to find an orb in some random location that
Well, it doesn't
powerful people are after.
necessarily. That place that we have to go next doesn't necessarily mean that it's gonna be a strong encounter like we just had. There's not a lot of people that are allowed there. So there's a
Where
chance that they're all extremely powerful, or there's not a lot.
Where's there?
Nomad would say, Dravar.
And what Dravar is a
It is a
Neutral zone.
landmass off the northwestern coast of Chertel. It is forbidden for any official military or political envoys from either Jardot or Venario to enter. Since we are not officially affiliated with either continent, it is, while not orthodox, reasonable for us to go there, provided we can find passage.
And to get there, I believe we first had to return to Delve Excellence.
Wait, why would we need to return to Delvius to get there? I thought, didn't he just say all we need is to find passage? Shouldn't we be heading to like a port town? Right, because you said it was a landmass off the side of the coast, right? So we have to take a boat there.
Nope, Tiro just shrugs and pulls out the map we have drawn for us and lays it out on the table.
So, as this is happening, something very odd occurs that Nomad, Tyrrell, Pinegrove, and Trenla all notice. From the corridor that you all had originally come through to enter this room when the necromancer was still alive, you see another Galzik step up. This one is carrying what looks to be a bag full of bogweed. And just kind of looks over at the other one and kind of tilts his head. And then looks at the rest of you guys.
Yeah, I'm gonna hunter marks the one that does not have hogweed. I'm just staring at it intently, like.
Just report on because your character will know if you hunter mark a new target, you lose the old target.
Well, the old target's already gone, so. Wait.
You just now see
Okay, yeah,
two
yeah, never mind.
Galziks.
Nomad is going to turn, and just on the off chance is going to open that sense of his.
You don't detect a crown, but you do detect something unusually familiar. Hey, Tyrrell. As you kind of look over and look at this, your head starts ringing. It's like this buzzing sensation in your head.
Kind of wince and put a hand to his head and continue looking at it. And just state, who are you?
You're familiar with this sensation.
What's it remind me of?
It reminds you of the same kind of feeling you got anytime the slicks were around. And as you all turn and acknowledge, you see this figure give this unnatural grin. And then begins to back up down the corridor.
Does Galzik step
I'm
in to
gonna
stop?
line up a. I'm going to line up a. What's it called again? Ensnaring strike on him.
All right, go ahead.
I'd say when it starts moving, Tyrrell would also tell them that it's related to the slicks in some capacity.
My thing would be which one?
Well, we just saw this. We just saw
Yeah.
this first Galzik right here talking with us, and all of a sudden, a second one with bogweed in his hands just comes up, and he's like, "What the heck? Why is there another me?"
Mhm.
So yeah.
Nomad would look at the Galzik with bogweed when the other one begins to back up and say, Galzik, please apprehend this individual.
All right. Gulzik is going to.
I just did.
Let's see, what did you get?
24.
to hit. All right, give me just a moment.
I think it has to beat a spell DC for ensnaring strike.
Well, on his turn, he
Correct.
gets to do that. Basically, yeah.
And
So here
what
in
is
a
the
second, he will.
what is the DC?
Spells. 15.
Hmm. Okay. And what kind of save is that?
It's a strength check.
It is just a strength check.
Strength save. Strength save.
Strength save.
Strength save, yes. Yes. Strength saving throw to break the vines.
And you said the DC
basically.
was what?
15.
That's an 18.
Damn it.
He is not bound.
But
I
I
mean,
tried.
you still do damage.
yeah, you still do the
roll your
damage.
Give
Yeah.
me 1 second. I gotta use the little metal man's room.
Right.
Oh no.
He's got to use the little Iron Man room. All right.
You want to go ahead and roll the damage?
Yep, roll for damage, because that does hit.
4, 3.
Oh.
Also, I've got a D6 or a D8 to go
1d6.
with that. 1D6. Here we go.
Uh-huh.
All right, it's 9 altogether.
All right. As it fires in, you see it kind of pass through Galzik's appearance, and you see it shimmer slightly. You hear it hit, but you see the image shimmer. And Galzik goes and is going to make a attack roll. That is a 19 plus whatever to hit. That hits. And is going to attempt a stunning strike. Which is, hang on, let me find the fucking DC on this shit.
Back.
He hit the thing, the image kind of shimmered, but it did connect, so Galzix is attacking. That's all you missed.
Awesome.
Galzix is attempting to stun it because it did break the ensnaring strike.
Yep.
Alright.
It is wisdom, so if Galzik is also level 5 like us, it would be I believe 13 plus his wisdom modifier.
That is a 15 to save. He does not get stunned by the stunning strike. And what is the wisdom save?
The
For what?
that for the stunning strike.
It is a con save.
Oh, it's a
Constitution DC 12. And
well,
you,
the saving, the actual number is based on Galzix's wisdom.
yeah, so its DC was 12. And he got a 15. But with that, the image fades. You no longer see two Galziks standing next to each other. For just a brief moment, what you see is a robed figure that takes up the entirety of this corridor. And this figure, you can't see its face, but it appears somewhat humanoid. And though you can't really see through its robes and shawls and tattered rags. You see the semblance of what looks like a fuzzy tail, but stained black. And just as quickly as you see it, it turns and seems to vanish into a mist-like veil. And gets about that far before vanishing. Galzik is still looking like, what the fuck was that?
We should probably get
Nomad's
out of
gonna-
here now. Or something else weird happens. Just saying, you guys.
Galzik and Trilla just both are kind of like, yeah, all right. And Mista's just stand there like, um.
Nomad would turn to Tyrell and say, "You said that it was related to the Slicks."
Yep.
It heard us say where the other orb is.
Mm-hmm.
Son of a bitch.
So now
We
we
must
have
make
no
haste. And Nomad says, "We must make haste," and then immediately turns and starts walking, like power walking back down the corridor.
You guys hear
I'm following right
the
behind him.
soft of metal ass cheeks as they go quickly scuttling down the hallway.
Oh yeah. They can't clap, but they sure can squeal.
We gotta get you an oil can, dude.
Oh, believe me, there's plenty of oil waiting to just spurt out of every orifice.
It's great.
Oh,
Tyrell
jeez.
collects the stuff and logs up beside Nomad and tells him that you do realize this entity had the ability to both get in here and leave in the blink of an eye, right?
Nomad says, "Our mission remains unchanged, but that sense of urgency has returned."
Hmm.
All right, so you all collect everything you have found, gather it all up, and then make for the exit.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna stop in the lab and grab the full fucking alchemy lab there, and start to pack it up.
All right.
Because I mean, he can rush all he wants. I'm going to safely pack up all this expensive alchemy gear I'm going to play.
All right.
If
And
if if
Trinla
Trinla doesn't want
also
to
goes
split
in and
it,
helps you. Trinla goes in there
Trinla,
and helps
Trinla
you
has a
pick it
right.
all up. Yeah.
Trinla has a right to it. So I was like, if she wants to split it, I'm down to split it with her. But otherwise, I'm going to basically, because there's probably more than an alchemy kit consists of. I'm gonna go grab everything an alchemy kit would have, so that I can have a kit of my own. Basically.
Yeah. She helps you, pack everything up and take some stuff on her own pack. You load some stuff into yours. She even begins stuffing some other bags and whatnot full of like everything she can and making sure it's secured and safe in there. And you pack up a decent amount of it, minus the cauldrons, as they are
That's it.
rather large. But she does take some time to actually bottle up some of the liquid that looks to be have been prepared already, or is just waiting to be bottled from those cauldrons, and corks them. And she gets about 4 of them, and you all get as much as you can packed up, and off you go on your way.
When it comes to the liquid, we're thinking that just from the notes included, we're thinking that's the depetrification oil, right? Or heating potions, which one?
I'm sorry, what was that? It kind of cut
From
out for
all
me.
from all that we found here, the 4 potions that, or for whatever you want to call them, that Simla's getting, because of all the stuff we found, do we think that they're healing potions or that they're the oil of depetrification?
These actually look to be a reddish type liquid.
Also healing potions.
Looks to be healing potions.
And for the hue, because it's just kind of basic knowledge, just for the hue of the thing, we think they're basic healing potions or
Uh,
higher tier.
They do not appear to be of greatly high potency. So they seem to be very basic. There's nothing glowing about them.
Gotcha. All right, cool.
But they look like they'll get the job done. Alright. And then you all would make your way back up the trapdoor and out the way you came.
Mm-hmm. This is not fucking blocked.
Alright.
Albrecht has his fingers crossed that it isn't blocked.
Everybody is outside, and the entire way through, you don't see footprints. You don't see any dust settled elsewhere or moved aside. You don't hear any running. You don't see, there's no sign of this thing anymore. Whatever it was, it just seemed to walk down a corridor and then vanish into thin air.
As we're walking, once we've been Phil and I eventually catch up with the rest of them, and you poke Kirill and say, when it comes to the sense you talked about, this sense is when you get near slicks. Does that mean is it for slick specifically, or is it also part of the whole extra planar hunting thing?
As far as I know, no other Plano hunter has that issue. But for me specifically, it's, I don't know, relatively new. It only seems to happen in the presence of some slick, apparently now
Yes.
slick entity.
Have you ever been in the presence of something from a different plane and set off your senses? Or
I will be
only
right
near
back.
slicks?
Well, I've been in the presence of a bunch of things from different planes, but this
And
one, I believe, is the only one that's ever thrown up a weird sense for me.
okay, so it's a sense specifically for slicks and their ilk, I guess.
It's a sense that specifically is for me, but I don't know why.
Yeah, no, I get it. I guess for you, I'm
Yeah,
just
no, you're good.
asking whether or not it's only for slicks or if it was a planar hunter sense.
As far as I know, it's only for slick.
Okay, cool.
But this raises the question of usually slicks are not in that form.
But I mean,
And
they
as Earl says form, actually, he kind of thinks back to the meeting he had with the 14th Crown. Does anything seem to connect these two?
This thing seemed to be from the same type of powerful touch, but does not seem anything like a slick.
Hmm.
In fact, it seemed significantly more powerful
Yeah.
and oddly sentient.
So Tiro would mention that either now we have something that is well, Tiro was just gonna kinda go, we got three options. One, the slick took over a very powerful being. Two, this is a being that comes from the same world as the slicks, meaning it has either some control over them or something else, or the third option, not really sure. I
All
think
right.
either way, our best bet is to first return to Delviax and
and what are we be doing in Delphi now?
well, for one, we have no idea who to seek for travel to this essential neutral ground, so maybe the king and queen can help us there. I need to report the
Actually,
happenings here to.
on that, you and Nomad both know somebody that'll do that.
Yep.
Oh no,
Oh yeah.
it's by boat, isn't it?
Oh yeah. That's the only way to reach it.
Carol, just after the realization hits him, mumbles candy ass.
Yeah, you both know someone that can take you. And they are not technically affiliated with either.
All right, well, while we're rushing, Tirmad, yeah. Tiro's gonna look to Trinla and ask if she's able to summon Klee again.
You see her look over and she kind of just shakes her head. That was my last flower. But I can deliver a message if you'd like.
Jiro just kind of looks and asks, "Are you familiar with a boat captain named Cadmus?"
She nods. Yes.
Okay. Send him a message. Just say that Tyrol, say that me and Nomad and our party need some help getting to where this next. Well, just say we need help getting to what the name is. What's the name of this area again?
The area you're trying to get to, or
Yes.
oh, Dravar?
Yeah, Dravar.
Yeah.
I was thinking Drakar for some reason. Yeah, we need help getting to Dravar, and that we have some stuff we want to share with him.
Okay. So you all head off then, back towards well, where are you guys heading?
Lightmore.
Back to Bleakmore?
Mhm.
All right. As you were going, Galzik's just kind of shaking his head and he's I don't think I'm cut out for this. And you see him kind of think about it for a minute and he's like he offers to accompany you guys back as far as Grey Plain, but from there he must return to his training at the base of Stone Talon Mountain, to the cabin where his mentor resides, so he can continue his training.
Nomad would nod and say, "Thank you for assisting us."
He would nod and you all would head back to Bleakmore. And it's a rather long journey. By the time you reach Bleakmore, it is, in fact, nightfall. And I would assume that once you reach Bleakmore, you once again house up and take a long rest to recover before heading out the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And with that, I'm going to say we can take another 5 to 10 minute break. And we will return right after that. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think the blimp has claimed lives. Our 3 companions got taken out by blimps.
All right. All right. Making headway.
Blimp.
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 Well,
I
one
will
thing,
say.
one thing you can notice as you guys are making your trek through, because
Mhm.
I've restarted stream already. One thing you guys would notice as you're passing through is there are no more undead. The zombies are
So,
not moving anymore.
presumably with the death of the creator, they
Mhm.
also went down?
Yep.
Okay. Uh,
Yeah, and also checking
Out of
through.
character, I'm pretty sure that guy was researching on how to become a lich.
Character, I think he's trying. Why would no? No, he was trying to figure out other secrets.
he was in fact Mr. Roboto.
No, he wasn't.
No, secret. He has a secret.
He's a secret squirrel. It's okay. Quinn, you here?
Yep.
All right,
He
Robbie.
was in fact 14 squirrels in an overcoat.
Secrets are no fun. Secrets hurt someone.
All right, Robbie, are you here?
You bitch.
Blimp.
Robbie's dead. Yep.
Blimp.
He fell into the swamp. Was never seen again.
F.
F in chat.
The blimp is strong.
All right. So as you all make your way back through, like I said, one of the things you notice is that there are no more zombies roaming about. In fact, you do find that there are some just laying on the ground, unmoving, still with bogweed in hand. Regrettably, against her greatest desires, Trinla does convince Misted to return Belial to the swamp where he belongs.
I have one. Does he actually keep that name?
Wouldn't you like to know? But
So we're gonna have to fight Eternal God.
she refuses to release him into the actual swamp. Instead, as you guys make your way back into Bleakmore and are greeted once again by the blind Naga Rava and the Pix, Pex, and Pax, the tiefling triplets, she instead makes a gift of Belial to the triplets.
And clearly say that it is a pet, not food.
Pet peeve, and it's gonna annoy you to the day we die. And
No,
with
his name isn't Peeve. His name is Belial.
and I'm going to assume that gathering up and whatnot, you will begin to make your way with the cart and everyone in it back towards Grey Plain Village and Ashstone. All right. I'm gonna
While we're in the cart,
okay.
Nomad would be looking at the notes that were given to us about the travels by the guy whose name I definitely need to remember.
What was his name?
Sustache.
Zustache.
Thank you,
Yes.
World Anvil.
You're welcome.
Yes.
The
The
the maps.
yes, the maps and the specific routes that he suggested we take
Okay.
to see what his notes were on how specifically he thinks we should reach Javar, if
By
there
water.
are any. Yeah, I figured.
Yeah, well, Nomad's doing that.
Nomad would sorry, go on.
Albrecht begins to study necromancers. slowly.
Okay. And by the way, everything that Nomad had found during his investigation was grabbed and brought with you guys.
Yes.
So, as a note to Quinn specifically, I will be putting the recipe up on either World Anvil or I can send it directly to you in a DM for the oil of depetrification. But one of the things that I'm going to be sending you in a DM is with the sufficient amount of time that you guys have traveling during this time, and you kind of examining and going over with Trenda like the notes and various things and whatnot. You actually discover that the rolls of silk and the strange liquid in the vials are arachnoviper silk, which are 50 rolls of them, and arachnoviper venom in the 5 vials. Which this is all that was found in those bags, which were brought with you. And aside from that, again, like I can put the recipe for the depetrification oil up on Rolled Anvil, or I can DM it to you later. But for right now, I'm going to guess that Misted and Trinla are going to be the ones navigating back through the swamp again. All right. So Misted is going to roll perception with advantage, and I'm going to count this for the all 3 days of travel it's going to take. So 24. And who would be helping Nomad? Well, actually, no. Nomad, since you'll be keeping watch at night, go ahead and roll perception with advantage for your watch for the evenings.
First one's a 20.
Second one's a 13.
But no, second one's a 19.
Okay. And for the third night,
Then 23.
all right. At the evening of the third night, it did take you guys a bit longer as Trinla realized you guys were in that much of a rush, didn't have time to commune with nature, so your trek took a little bit longer to get through the actual pathway. And so the third night greets you about there. And at the dawn of the next day, let me just go ahead and 1, 2, 3. It is the morning of the 8th. And it is 6 o'clock in the morning. Would you guys begin to head towards Great Plain then?
How many days
While
has it been?
it's been 3 days.
3 days.
All right. Tira would ask you on the beginning of this third day to use your sense again and see if that orb has moved at all.
Nomad would do so.
Hasn't moved.
Thankfully, it appears that it is still in the same location.
Okay.
About Delviix now. I feel perhaps we should proceed straight to Serpent's Calling.
Oh yeah, no, we're fine as long as we know someone who can get us there. And since we do,
During this
Nomad.
journey towards Great Plain, while this conversation is happening, a very odd thing happens to Trinla. You notice that the markings on her body, the tattoos that she has that look very strange, very alien to you guys begin to softly glow. This is predetermined roles. Misted notices, and Mrs. address these. Brings it to attention like, hey, like, why your tattoos are glowing.
Your headlights are on.
Your headlights are on. And Trendler reveals.
Turn off your high beams.
Trendler reveals to the group that she will not be able to accompany you all going forward, as this is representative of her own training, and that she needs to return to the forest in Jernice to further her training and to seek guidance. That the markings on her body are actually in the language of pixies. That when she was a child, that she was found and trained in the druidic arts by these pixies that found her. And as such, she will be returning there to seek their guidance and further her own training. And perhaps find some way to assist you all. During
Or
this...
has but one question for her.
Okay, what's the question?
Does she have pixie dust?
She responds that yes, she does, and pats a small little pouch on her hip.
Gerald then requests if he could have some.
She thinks about it for a moment, and
Just a little sprinkle.
Just shakes her head. I cannot trust you to do something correct with it.
I feel like Gerald just looks at her and just says, I feel like I've been insulted.
You should. But,
You and Siri have a lot of common, don't you?
well, we are siblings. But, during this conversation, she kind of looks back and looks at Pinegrove and presents Pinegrove with an offer and an opportunity. She offers Pinegrove to join her on this journey to Juni's Forest, to perhaps find him more purpose, more training, or a new home.
Pinegrove would sit and ponder for just a moment and look at the rest of you guys and yeah, with a deep sigh, I feel like I kind of have to do this.
Trina nods, and your company will be greatly appreciated. It is a long and often lonely journey. And as you all pull into Great Plain Village, it has been not too terribly long since you've been here, but the people that are going about are actively whispering and, speaking amongst each other and gathering up seed and preparing tools and plows and various beasts of burden to head out into what you could assume the fields to begin planting the crops for the season.
They've been putting the fuzz bugs to good use, I see.
And as you all, I would assume, then begin departing through Grey Plain,
Mhm.
Evening starts to take hold, and roughly about the same location or the same time frame passes, and you do come across the Emerald Shield Rat in the same spot as when you left it. And the two up front kind of turn to the group and, should we rest here again for the night?
Newman would think for a pretty long moment and say, we may as well, as I believe 3 members here plan to go on their own way after the morning comes.
Alright, so you all pull in, hitch the horses up, in the wagon and secure it and head inside. And you are greeted with the familiar sight of Yiri, who has seemingly been expecting you. As upon your entry in, he announces loudly that the brave adventurers have returned from their quest, and I hope it was successful.
Nomad just kind of like turns slowly to Tyrrell. And would then turn back and say, "We obtained what we set out to find."
You see Yuri put a hand up. Well then, I suppose that is cause for celebration. And you hear him announce loudly that you guys were successful and victorious in your quest to the rest of the patrons, who all, let out cheers in your name and raise up mugs for toasts. And one particular orc uh, lifts a table and then, with a scathing glare from Yuri, gently puts it back down. But as you all approach into the bar, into the area where Yuri is located, he offers you yet again room and board. Those come at no cost. He says, however, now that you are seasoned adventurers and have completed your quest admirably, I will offer you a night of true rest and relaxation and recovery. And he states that for the fee of 5 gold, you are given as much food and drink as you wish, and that also allows you to use the washrooms to bathe, should you so need it, and also to repair any armor that you may need repaired.
I will just be put across the counter. Yes.
Okay, well then I'll just wait for you to have your breaks.
All right.
Question: are we planning to end session after settling in for the evening here?
The plan is that we will be ending session the following morning, and possibly
Okay.
shortly after that. Why?
Oh, just I got something I gotta do, so.
Okay. Well, it won't be too terribly much longer, probably about another 20, 30 minutes tops.
Okay.
But, yeah, so Yuri offers you all, 5 gold will cover all your food and drinks, and allows you to use the washrooms to bathe, as well as, minor repairs to your armor and weapons and whatnot. Which Elbrig has excitedly stated yes, so that'll be 5 gold. And Misted and Trendla kind of look at each other, both kind of covered in grime, muck, blood, and other kinds of disgustness, and just both at the same time just put 5 gold on the table each. And then proceed to head up towards the rooms and presumably the washrooms.
Same. We all do pretty much the exact same thing. The only difference is I take Samson with me because I've had a big furry dog trekking through the swamp. He needs a bath.
You might have to shave him to get the stink out of the fur.
No one's shaving anyone.
Shave the dog. His fur will smell forever.
All
I
right.
will hurt you.
So, sorry, I got to the point of Trendla Misted heading up to the rooms and presumably the washrooms. What happened after that?
Albert's doing the same thing and taking Samson with him because that big furry dog has been trekking through fucking swamp thing for like the last few days.
All right.
Daryl's trying to convince Elbrig to shave the dog because his fur is going to smell perpetually forever.
That'll be fine.
I before I disappear because fucking he says that, I turn to what was his name? Kiri?
The
Yuri?
bartender,
Yeah,
Yuri.
Yuri. Okay. Turn to Yuri and say, you wouldn't happen to have like scented oil for soaps, would you?
And Yuri just kind of motions towards the washrooms, and everything you need is available.
Wonderful. Come, Samson. It's time to make you better.
And it is literally an entire room to yourself with a very, very large tub. Even for like someone like Misted stature, it is a very large like tub.
That means it's fucking huge for me.
Hmm. It is meant to accompany things the size of possibly Goliath or larger.
Okay, so yeah. Uh, I think Elbrick is gonna spend a good amount of time in there, both cleaning Samson and then probably just relaxing period.
Okay.
Because you had a stressful few days, and with things that came to light, Elbrick is kind of just got like a vein throbbing in his forehead.
All right. And as the evening presses on, and Nomad, Tyrrell, and Pinegrove are going about their business, what's going on there?
Yeah, going up to the bar and ordering a drink for the evening, trying to relax, thinking about my journey ahead.
All right. Do you also pay the 5 gold?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and pay the 5 gold.
All right. That will cover all food and drinks that you wish.
Okay.
All right. Tyrrell.
Also going to the bar and gonna have a talk. Order a drink and then eventually have a talk with Yuri.
All right. What's up?
Um, Tyrrell just kind of looks at him and remembers him mentioning that he might not necessarily be from around,
Mhm.
and just ask him if he's ever encountered a slick before.
And Yuri just shakes his head. Never heard of them.
Tyrrell would explain what they are, assuming that he never heard of it.
And doesn't ring any bells.
He would order some blood wine. Was that what it was?
Yes, the blood wine.
Okay. And then ask about the tiefling who made this, or liked to this, I should say.
And says that her name was Malith.
And what was she like?
Kind, generous, caring, dreadfully strong, but
Mm.
overall was good.
Alright, yeah, that'll be all for now. Might ask some questions later.
All right. Before you leave, he also says, for your group, I'm also offering the sale of some potions that I have left over. I had finished preparing them and never got a chance to really sell them. If you are interested.
What are you selling?
He goes around and pulls out a large crate and sets it on the counter. And inside are, as he explains that, there are 2 potions of healing. There is a potion of poison resistance and a potion of cold resistance. That the potions of healing are 50 gold apiece, and the 2 potions of resistance are 75 gold apiece.
Tyrrell would look to. Is Nomad still down here, or did he wander off?
Nomad would be at a table, reading a book.
Tyrrell would grab your attention real quick.
He would close his book, put it aside, and stand up to come talk to you.
I'd indicate over to Yuri and say that he's selling some potions, and I was wondering if you were interested in them. There's a couple there's a poison resistance, some frost resistance, and 2 healing potions. I think for sure we should nab the healing, but the other 2 I'm not sure.
Nomad would ponder and ask, how much for the healing potions?
50 gold
50
apiece.
gold.
50 gold apiece?
50 gold apiece.
Nomad would reach into his bag and pull out 100 gold and plop it down and say, the healing potions, then.
And he pulls them out, and you now have 2 potions of healing.
Nomad would take one and hand the other one to Tyrrell.
Tira would deny it and tell him he can hang on to it. That I got a couple from the necromancer.
Nomad would do his customary thinking for a second, then nod and put the other one in his pack as well.
Alright. Anything else?
Nomad would ponder for a second and then say to Tyrrell, when you have a moment, I'd like to speak with you.
Tira would just kind of acknowledge it and say that he has a moment now.
Nomad would motion back to the table he was sitting at, which nobody else is sitting at, I presume.
No.
And would start walking over there.
Tira would follow.
Upon sitting down and sort of scanning the room to see if anybody is listening, ensuring that nobody is not, Nomad would say, the figure we encountered at the end
Mhm.
of our excursion. I used my sense to determine whether it was an Eincore. It was not, but my sense still activated. It registered.
What exactly did it register?
Nomad would kind of shake his head and say, I still am not sure to the extent of my senses' capabilities. All I know is that I felt it. And it felt familiar.
Tira would just kind of look at Nomad and say, there's a question I was going to ask you as well. When he used that darkness spell earlier, he described it as being all dark but like crackling purple in it somewhere.
It was an inky
Yeah,
blackness with
you
looks
would
like strokes
recall
of purple lightning.
Yes, it was this. It like very much all of the spell effects that you've seen Nomad use. They're black, inky.
Mhm.
They have this purple lightning effect always going through them. And specifically with this darkness spell, although you didn't feel it specifically, it looked cold.
Empty.
Yeah, Tyro's just gonna kind of say that he's had a question that was picking at the back of his mind, and say that something about all of this stuff happening at once and you, well, coming to consciousness as of recent is, I believe, all connected.
Nomad would kind of think on this for a second and say, I still don't know what it was that caused me to, well, that caused me. But
Yeah.
it does seem odd that all these things are happening at once.
Tira would note that after seeing your magic, It's possible that it's, well, for one, otherworldly, and two, that it has a similar yet eerie connection to the Slicks in a way. At least from what I was shown from the 14th Crown.
Nomad would ponder this and say, this form, and he sort of vaguely gestures at himself.
Mm-hmm.
You just pointed to all of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like this is not native to this world.
Yes, I'm aware.
It would make sense that while I am a part of this world now, my body itself, perhaps, once came from another. And if that's the case, then having a resemblance in the powers that I'm capable of wielding to the Slicks does seem that perhaps I have some connection, but I do not know what that could be.
Yeah, and that's fair. I just think that there is a connection in some capacity. As the Black King, when I first was introduced to his form in a one, well, Arcanaus decided it was good to show me. He also had crackling purple lightning around him in certain spots, but it's just interesting. And also when Slicks attack, the moment before, there's usually a flash of purple energy. Whether it's the same or different, it's hard to tell, but it's definitely hard to brush off as coincidence.
Nomad would, go into deep thought as he does, and kind of say, whatever the connection is, I feel that perhaps the third orb, although it may not shed light on the connection there, it will give us some of the answers we're looking for.
I believe so as well. And that's just some of the answers we need, not all of them.
Nomad would nod. And then kind of just look at, and then just kind of look at Tyrell. And he's just like, you get you kind of get the sense that he's trying to read you.
Mm-hmm.
And he would kind of just like say awkwardly, how are you feeling?
How do you mean?
I know that you have a tendency to answer concerns with inebriation.
Really? You're questioning if I'm drunk yet?
I'm just saying that you should care about your health.
I mean, he's not wrong.
If I was drunk yet?
I mean, yes and yes.
I've only had the blood wine so far.
And it's delicious.
Exactly. It's fine. When I have my 6th cup, then it will be a problem. But until then, it's fine.
Does Tyrell say that?
Yes.
basically.
Nomad says. Nomad just looks at you and says, "Please don't."
Just says, with everything going on, I would say there is concern, but at the same point, not like, I don't know, it doesn't register with me right away. It's just concern more than anything right now. But I am fine, and I still plan on drinking at least. He's just gonna cut off at least. He's not gonna label a number.
Nomad just gives you a look.
Daryl
Just
looks
like,
back and says, "If I survived 3 bottles of Dragon's Fire, I'll be all right."
All right. And I'm going to.
Nomad just reaches back over to the book and opens it, and before looking back down, he says, "If you need it, I still have rope." And then
Daryl
would go back to reading.
just pounds the fucking drink and goes back to the bar.
All right. And I'm going to assume that that will pass the evening for everyone.
Mm,
One
I would say
one thing of notice is that it seems Misted and Trinla are sharing a room tonight.
Oh no.
That's
You're
all you really-
correct.
that's all you really notice.
You're correct.
And as the following morning finds you all,
I just hope they're careful with those scissors.
as the following morning finds you all, Galzik greets everyone outside and gives a rather firm handshake to Nomad and wishes you all really good luck
Mhm.
and good fortune.
Before he leaves, Nomad would say, "I hope that your training goes well, and that it does not deplete your stores." And he glances at the bogweed sack.
And he just kind of nods and I'll probably be out in deep mire looking for more soon. As Ignatius is not exactly gentle. But good luck to you all. And fair winds. And you see him turn and begin walking towards this particular location. And yeah. And with that, Trenla also comes about and begins saying her goodbyes. And with it, she bestows gifts. To Elbrig, she presents you with an herbalism kit, as well as all of the materials and components for the alchemy set that you guys had gathered up. She also presents you with a copy of her bestiary and a rather decently sized bag to carry, specifically, she mentions to carry herbs and plants in. To Tyrrell, she gives the bag that holds several, or the 4 healing potions that they had gathered up while they were on the way out, as well as her old planar hunter patch, which she slams onto your other shoulder across on the other side of the one you currently have, and it seems to stitch itself into you, or into your wardrobe, with what looks to be vines and whatnots, and sews itself in. Proceeds to then give you a rather feeble punch in the shoulder, followed by, "I expect you to return that to me when your mission there is complete."
Daryl will just kind of look at her and say, "He makes no promises, but it should return."
She just nods and, One thing you notice is Misted is not out there yet. And she groggily steps her way through the door. And Misted gives her a little nod and a little wave. The weird, frosty wave. As Robbie is well aware of what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Trina turns to Pinegrove and, well, we have a long journey ahead of us. Shall we get going?
Yeah. Yes, we should. One moment, though. Well, it's a shame that we have to part ways at this point, but I'm afraid I can't go no further. I have business elsewhere that I have to tend to. Plus, I have to recant my story of what happened to my village to the proper authorities over in Upcassis. I wish you all the best of luck. I know you'll do well.
And with that, Trina begins to head off towards what you can only assume to be towards Listelcrass.
Yep, and I follow like right behind.
Bye, Pine Grove. Hope
I wave back
everything
to you
turns
guys.
out better.
Thanks, you too, guys. Maybe our paths will cross again one day.
Maybe. Seem to run into every other individual.
Right.
I promise I won't pluck the arrow out this time if it's still in you.
Okay, I'm gonna hold you to that one.
All right. And the 3 members of your party all depart, leaving just the 4. And with that, where do you head off to next?
Zone and then Serpent's Calling.
Let's go meet Candy Ass.
All right. And you all hop back into the cart, this time with Tyrrell and Misted at the front, and continue your journey, which we will pick up on next session.
Awesome. I have to go get some cake ready.
Oh
All
no.
right.
Nice.